What is going on YouTube? 0088 here, and today we are talking about why the hell I ain't gonna watch Secret Invasion and why Marvel has been slowly killing me over the years, because this is the kind of shit I'm talking about, man. Like, I don't understand. Why is the director even admitting it? So basically, Secret Invasion director says first thing Marvel Studios told him was don't read the comics. And Marvel are probably wondering why they're losing money and they ain't doing as good as the Infinity Saga. This is such bullshit. Well, let's read the article and then I'll give you my thoughts afterwards. Secret Invasion director Ali Salim, which is a very honest guy, well done Ali, but I think he's going to try and spin it into a positive thing, but I think it's going to be a negative thing. Well, it is a negative thing because it's dumb. Secret Invasion director Ali Salim has revealed that Marvel Studios advised him to stay away from the comic books when he signed on to helm the Disney Plus series. The first episode of Secret Invasion is now streaming on Disney Plus, and if you've read the Marvel comics that the series is named after, you should already have realized that this is far from a direct adaptation. The basic premise of a shape-shifting alien race known as the Skrulls infiltrating positions of power on Earth and plotting to take over the planet remains the same, but the original story was much larger in scale and featured pretty much every major character in the Marvel universe. While speaking to Screen Rant, director Ali Salim, who helmed all 6 episodes of the shadowy espionage thriller, revealed that someone at Marvel Studios advised him to avoid comics completely when he signed onto their project. Even if you don't use anything from the comics, that's fine. But why would you push for that? The first thing I was told is don't read the comics, Salim said. It had nothing to do with what we're trying to do here. Then why did you call it Secret Invasion? Oh my God. We'll get into all of this in a minute, and I'm going to read some of the comments on this article because there's some of them are hilarious. This is comicbookmovie.com, and it has some interesting people in the comment section sometimes. A lot of Marvel stans, a lot of annoying SAW type people, but some base people as well. This story was really born out of the electricity created between Sam Jackson and Ben Mendelsohn. You know, basically the actors, not the story, not the source material, not the characters from the source material, the actors in real life, their energy or whatever. Or Nick Fury and Talos in Captain Marvel, he continued. And they said, oh, we got to do something with that. So they found a story that would serve that relationship and would expand the MCU and other characters who are not in the comics books. I think it's a story unto itself. I mean, based on what he's saying, the MCU hasn't really done anything differently, but why would you say don't read the comics? Because the Russo brothers read the comics. They read Civil War. They read Infinity War. They read Infinity Gauntlet. And that's why there's certain elements that is badass in those movies. That's why those movies are good. Trust me, Joss Whedon used to write comics before he even directed Avengers. And he took characters' motivations, character personalities, but I'll get into all that later. This happens more than you might think. Well, that's good news, especially when a TV series or a movie in question is only loosely inspired by its source material, but it tends to ruffle a few feathers. What do you make of Salim's comments? Do you think comic movies should still be referenced? Be sure to share your thoughts down below. I'll share my thoughts in this video right now. Blah, 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 blah. All right, let's read the comments, because replying to the comments would basically get my thoughts out. Oh boy, yep, true. Marvel going from bad to worse, yeah. This is dumb thing to jump to conclusions about. No, it's not. Marvel is trying to battle DC at this point for being the most clueless. Yes, they are. I don't think it can be considered jumping when the MCU's track records with fans is noticeably going downhill. Exactly. In fact, I've seen an article before that said something about this, where it wasn't an article, it was a guy in an interview actually. I think he was working on, fuck, what was he working on? Was it Loki? I think it was the Loki director or something. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember to do the research on that right now. But it was somebody working on one of the MCU projects, and he said the same thing, that one of the big mantras in Marvel right now is to not read the comics, which is just weird to me. No, it's still jumping to some bad conclusion, and this whole track record thing is ignorant. Phase 1 and 2 had some mediocre entries as well. Phase 4 had a couple, but it was mostly well received. Bullshit, MCU fan. MCU's never been more downhill than it is right now. Let's be real. What do you mean, mostly well received? Most everything performed well at the box office. Yeah, but how could it be going down, down, down? They've been doing worse and worse. Even fucking Chris Hemsworth has come out and said Love and Thunder was trash. You know, Quantum Mania, trash. Was Infinity War a direct copy from the comics? Hardly a big deal. No, it wasn't a direct copy, but no one's asking for a direct copy. Have the Russos ever read the comics? Yes, they have. The Russos nearly even recreated the motion lines in Thanos' snap. It's a big deal. It makes a significant difference. Yes, it does make a significant difference. There's actually a scene from backstage that shows some of the Infinity Gauntlet omnibus with notes from Feige. that both Russo's and Marcus McFeely were encouraged to read. That and Hickman's most recent Infinity. Yes. Like, let's go to 102 from this guy doing some research for me. So basically, I think that was like showing all the stuff they would been reading, basically. They're showing even if they're not reading it, like at least they're trying to show us that they care, that they've got ideas from the comics. Now they're just outright letting you know. They're not even looking at the source material. So why even call it Secret Invasion? No one's expecting you to just throw in the exact storyline from the comics and throw in Iron Man, Captain America, and all them lot that were involved in Secret Invasion when your MCU continuity has already like erased them. Some are dead, some are old, some have left. No one's expecting that. But they want you to at least acknowledge some of the aspects of the source material and implement that into the MCU and make it work with the MCU. You don't have to force it, but you can get the same spirit. And I think they might be doing that with the show, but that if they're telling you not to read the source material at all, so you have no idea what the even vibe of the source material is, what the vibe of the scrolls still exist. You still need to read the source material so you know what the scrolls are going to be like. Do you know what I mean? At least. Tyrant Boss Media. Some of these people here just baffle me. They claim to be comic book fans and come to a site called Comic Book Movie, but they're quite content when studios flat out when studios flats fly disregard. I've never heard that. Maybe that's a mistake. Flats fly disregard the comic book source material, and they will defend Marvel no matter how badly they damage the franchise. Facts. If you thought it was going to be an orgy superhero and villain cameos revealed as Skrulls, you're crazy. That shit only works in a comic story. Someone's replying to that saying, can you imagine what the Avengers would have been like if they had gone by that logic? No superhero orgy because that shit only works in the comics. No, this. Exactly. There's one comment that got me that I actually replied to. It was actually a decent argument. I rather attack the decent arguments than the easy ones. Okay, has anyone actually read Secret Invasion? Because the title feels mostly like it was used because Marvel really likes events with the word secret, blah, blah, blah. Like Secret Wars, but it's not going to be that story. Age of Ultron did the same thing actually, where it was like taking the title but did the Ultron Unlimited storyline or something like that. I can't remember, or the original Ultron storyline. Look, it's not about the title. I mean, it's still Secret Invasion, right? Because it's not just it can be that would be fine if they took the title and did a different comic story. They've done that before, but they're not doing that. They're actually doing Secret Invasion here, so it's not the same thing. And the whole thing about, has anybody actually read Secret Invasion? There's a few comments like that here where people are saying, oh, people that haven't even read the comics are complaining about this. First of all, the Skrulls were way popular back in the days. Like, when Thanos first revealed himself with his grilled patty chin back in 2012, I honestly thought he was a Skrull. I didn't even know who Thanos was. I know more about Thanos than the Skrulls now, but I thought it was a Skrull. That's how popular the Skrulls were, so Secret Invasion was definitely a popular storyline, you know? Anyway, let's get to the comment that actually it triggered me because it was a good argument, you know? All right, but I still think it's wrong. Anyway, so this guy says, I get it. Imagine Marvel Studios trying to persuade new creators, directors, and writers to a project, and the first thing they tell them, read the source material, that's what we want. These guys read the comics without any understanding of the characters or their pasts, or how convoluted the mythology can be. The newbie director and writer would probably walk away saying, I have no idea how to even break a story that big. Instead, Marvel Studios says, we have this character, Nick Fury, and we want to highlight a story with him. We think a dark conspiracy story using an alien race infiltrating human society along the likes of the classic Third Man film would be interesting. That would be a story worth investing in for writers and directors who aren't fluent with Marvel mythology. Once they are on board, it is the job of the producers working with them who can pull from the source material to make it more relatable to the comics. Bottom line, which is probably how a little bit how they're doing things anyway. Bottom line, Marvel Studios is not going to get the talent they want if all they want is an adaptation from the comics. I wouldn't believe that would be appealing to most creators. So why in the hell would they force them to read the comics? The comics would be inspiring stories in the MCU, not be strict adaptations. Civil War wasn't, Infinity Saga wasn't. Sometimes the best stories are those that take liberties with the source material and tell something new. This guy commented, said, this comment demonstrates a nuanced understanding of filmmaking and storytelling. Are you sure you're on the right website? Oh. Anyway. Look, this is what I said. Taking inspiration from the comics still require. By the way, never mind my shitty grammar because I was writing on my broken ass keyboard on my laptop. Every time I type something, it breaks and there's full stops everywhere. Anyway, let's read it. This is what I said. Taking inspiration from the comics still requires you to read said comic, though. The reason Thanos was not a jokey idiot villain, the reason why Cap was written as an inspirational leader and Iron Man was an intelligent narcissist was because the previous writers and directors read the comics. You don't have to be a genius, there's a mistake there, to know that you don't adapt the comic word for word, scene by scene. It's your job as a director, writer to read the source material, understand the source material and adapt it to the screen in a digestible film format with the talents and skills you've hopefully acquired. Being told to not read, study the source material you're adapting and then make the Third Man movie instead makes me feel like I'm not getting something authentic, whether I've read Secret Invasion or not. When the MCU first started, it was exciting watching the movies, then going back to the source material to see what they took from it. Then it got even better reading up on the source material they were preparing to make a movie about and seeing it translate to the big screen. It felt amazing until Iron Man 3. I'll never forget how I read Extremis and some old Mandarin comics, excited to see how they adapt it into Iron Man 3, and all I got was trash. I bet Shane Black didn't even read the damn comics. Felt like they didn't even try compared to what I read. From then on, I never knew or got excited about a storyline they announced because they obviously care less about the Marvel world they are making money from than I do. When I care more about the people investing their time and finances into this, and about the lore and characters in the story, then I know I'm wasting my time being a fan of the IP. There you go, that's what I said. And that's just it, man. It's just like, it's so true because when I first started watching the MCU when it first came out, it was exciting. It was close to the source material. They made them wear the clothes. The characters were acting like the characters in the comics. Like obviously not exactly, but they were very close, you know. And it was fun, like reading up the comic storyline and seeing how they adapt it to screen. And then after Iron Man 3, what they did to the Mandarin, how stupid he was, and what they did with Extremis and how ridiculous it was more cartoony than the comics. The comics was actually dark and serious and more adult. So I thought, how are they going to make this into a movie? The trailer looks epic. The trailer looks kind of like it might be quite dark and gritty, a bit of a thriller, you know. And then you watch it and it's just a fucking big joke, you know. And then that's coming from like they're just trying to do. This is why that comment about the guys talking about the Third Man was bad, because what they do is they don't take from cool things usually. They take from trends. Currently, it's trendy to include a lot of real life political shit going on, whether it's Black Lives Matter, whether it's the LGBTQ, whether it's transgender, all this kind of stuff. That's trendy and real life political stuff. It's got nothing to do with storytelling, nothing to do with directing, nothing to do with script writing. It's just political stuff. And that's why they throw that into the movies and they just put that in there. They're just ticking boxes basically. And again, with stuff that is to do with script writing, like comedy, they know that, okay, we know that the formula is just have a bit of comedy, have a bit of this, have a bit of silly characters. And they throw that in every single Marvel property, you know. They don't read the actual comics. They don't get the vibe of what the comic was trying to do. No one is saying we need the exact adaptation of these comics. Civil War wasn't an exact adaptation, but I loved it. Infinity War wasn't an exact adaptation, but I loved it. I wish Endgame was a bit closer to the comics because it was missing some key elements like Adam Warlock and... which I don't think is the Russo brothers' fault. I think James Gunn and Marvel pushing Captain Marvel instead of Adam Warlock at that time was one of the biggest issues. I'm sure the Russos would have used Adam and used him well had the rest of the MCU like been pushing him a bit more. The Infinity Gauntlet also felt like it was lacking in Endgame. But anyway, let's not make this an Endgame review of why I didn't like Endgame. But yeah, either way, they still made Thanos really good. Like, he didn't have the death in the comics. See, no one's asking for a word for word adaptation. All we're asking for is to at least know what you're talking about. At least know these characters and know this story more than we do. Even if you don't do that character, and even if you don't do that story, at least know the original, and then you adapt it, and then we know what you're talking about when you do these changes and stuff like that. So examples, you can have Easter eggs. You can have like references or little moments from the comics, and then we're like, oh, I remember that from the comic. Oh, that's cool. I wonder if that's in the comic. And you go back and you see it is in the comic. It makes you feel good. It feels all connected. It feels like it's Marvel. You know, if you take a storyline from the comics and then don't read anything in it and don't know anything about it, and then just make it The Godfather or something, like you imagine they take Avengers Disassembled and then make that into The Godfather for some reason. It's nothing like the comic book. And then you go back to the comic and you're like, what is this? Like it's not even Marvel anymore. It's just Marvel in name only, you know? It's supposed to be inspired by the comics. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on it. And when I know that you're not even reading the comic books and it's not even, it just feels like Marvel in name only, then I don't know, man. I'm just not interested. Especially when you're not doing good stuff. Look, at the very least, if you're not going to read the comics and you're going to do some new thing, at least make it entertaining. But I watched the first episode and got bored immediately, and I don't think I'll be watching anymore. But yeah, Marvel, fix up. Clearly this don't read the comic thing isn't working, because projects and TV shows and the movies have been going down ever since. So probably get back to reading the comics. That's my thoughts. If you like the video, please give me a like, subscribe, hit the notification bell for notifications, and I'll see you again very soon. Thanks for listening to my rant. Peace.